The first time my sister used the word nonrefundable, it landed in our family group chat like a verdict, not a detail. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind where your inbox is quietly multiplying and you're telling yourself you'll eat something real once you finish. Just one more thing. My phone buzzed on the corner of my desk, screen lighting up with that familiar chain of green bubbles, and I watched the messages stack up as if they were arriving from a room I wasn't in but was still expected to obey. Kara, surprise. We booked Mom's milestone trip. Ben, hooray. Aunt Diane, oh my goodness. Kara, everything is locked in and non-refundable, so no backing out lol. Kara, we're doing the nicest option because she deserves it. I stared at locked in and felt my throat tighten the way it does right before you realize you've been volunteered for something you didn't agree to. There's a particular kind of panic that isn't loud. It isn't a siren. It's more like a slow flooding behind your ribs, the sense that if you move too quickly you'll show everyone the truth. You don't have the money, you don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the luxury of pretending. I didn't type anything right away. I did what I always do when my family presents something as a celebration, but it feels like a trap. I read it 3 times, hoping the 4th time will reveal an exit I missed. Kara posted a screenshot next, the kind of glossy resort collage you'd see in a travel magazine. White sand, bright water, a pool shaped like a lazy river, and right there in the corner, a price breakdown in a tiny font that still managed to scream. She circled a line with a digital marker as if she were being helpful. Kara, here's the breakdown. It's actually a great deal because it includes everything. Kara, everyone just Venmo me your share by Friday so I can finish paying it off. Kara, also we're covering Mom so we'll split her portion too. My stomach turned. Friday was 3 days away. I looked at my calendar. Rent. Car insurance. The dentist bill I'd been chipping away at because my insurance covered it the way a paper umbrella covers you in a storm. My savings account balance sat in my mind like a fragile object. I could see the number without opening my banking app, like a bruise you know is there even if you don't look. I finally opened the screenshot to zoom in. My finger pinched the screen until the numbers got big enough to insult me properly. The total was something my family would call worth it, because in their mouths, worth it is a synonym for Charlene will figure it out. It wasn't just my share. It was my share plus a portion of Mom's, plus what Kara called a little extra for excursions because we're not going all the way there to sit around. The number was nearly a full month of my take-home pay, after taxes, after benefits, after all the invisible little deductions that make your paycheck feel like it's arriving pre-shrunk. My hands went cold. I set my phone face down and stared at my computer monitor without reading any of it. My heart was doing that slow, sick beat, thump, pause, thump, like it couldn't decide whether this was danger or embarrassment, whether to fight or hide. And then my phone buzzed again. Ben, this is gonna be epic. Kara, Mom's gonna cry when she finds out. Aunt Diane, she deserves the world after everything she's done for all of you. Kara, Charlene, you're gonna love it. You need a vacation more than anyone. There it was. That phrase. The one that always comes out when someone wants you to do something expensive and inconvenient. You need it. Need it the way someone needs air. Need it the way someone needs insulin. Need it the way someone needs a repairman when the pipes burst. Not want it. Not enjoy it. Need it as if refusing would be an act of self-harm instead of basic financial responsibility. I flipped my phone over again, thumb hovering over the keyboard. I considered writing something casual, something breezy, something that wouldn't shake the group chat's happy mood. So fun. Wow. That's a lot. But nothing felt safe. If I sounded concerned, I'd be the wet blanket. If I sounded excited, I'd be agreeing. If I asked questions, I'd be implying they did something wrong, and in my family, doing something wrong is less offensive than pointing out that it might be wrong. I took a breath and typed, slowly, carefully, like I was placing glass on a table. Me, this looks beautiful. Can you send me the dates and the total per person again? I want to make sure I'm reading it right. I stared at the message before sending it, reading it for any hint of accusation. It was neutral. It was polite. It was the kind of sentence you could defend in court if needed. I hit send. The typing bubbles appeared almost immediately. Kara, LOL, yes, it's right. Kara, it's the week of the 18th. Kara, It's $2,850 per person, and then mom's share split between us makes it $3,550 each. Kara, and we should budget extra for tips and the catamaran day. Kara, I'm paying the deposit today, so I need everyone's money by Friday. My chest tightened like a fist. I did the math anyway, because anxiety makes me do arithmetic I already understand. $3,550. By Friday. For a trip I didn't agree to. For a week I might not even be able to take off without risking my job. I heard my mother's voice in my head, warm and tired, the way it sounds when she says, "Oh honey, you didn't have to," while still accepting the thing. My mother never asks for anything, which is part of why my siblings get away with using her as a shield. "It's for mom" is a sentence that makes everyone else look heartless if they hesitate. I thought about calling Kara right then, stepping out of my office, speaking quietly so no one could overhear my financial humiliation. But I already knew how that call would go because it had gone that way before in different costumes. Kara would say, "It's not that bad, Char." Kara would say, "Just put it on a card." Kara would say, "You always stress, but you always make it work." Kara would say, "Mom has done so much, and we're finally doing something nice." And I'd be the one who had to say the uglier truth. I don't have it. Not, I don't want to spend it. Not, I'd rather use it for something else. Not, I'm being stubborn. I don't have it. That statement in my family is treated like a character flaw, like a failure to plan, like a refusal to hustle, like laziness disguised as prudence. I didn't answer right away. I sat there, breathing, letting my mind run ahead like it always does, imagining the worst versions of the conversation. The group chat would turn. The emojis would stop being hearts and become question marks. Someone would remind me of the time Mom helped me with my first apartment deposit, which Mom offered freely because she wanted me safe, but which everyone else keeps in a mental ledger as proof I owe the family forever. My phone buzzed again. "Kara, don't worry, I put it on my card already, so we're good." "Kara, just need you to pay me back by Friday." "Kara, red heart." My mouth went dry. The words "I put it on my card" were not a kindness. They were a rope around my ankles. The kind of rope that looks like generosity until you realize it's also leverage. I opened my banking app anyway, because denial is a luxury I can't afford. The numbers confirmed what my body already knew. If I paid Kara, I could still cover rent, barely. But I'd have nothing for anything else. No cushion. No emergency. One flat tire would ruin me. One unexpected prescription. One broken appliance. One, "Hey, we need to raise the rent by a little" email. I thought about my job, too. I don't have the kind of job where you can casually disappear for a week because your family decided you should. I'm not salaried with endless PTO. I work hard, and I have earned time off, but it has to be requested, approved, planned around. There are deadlines and coverage and projects that don't stop because your sister wants a group photo at a resort. I looked back at the group chat. Everyone was already talking about what to pack. "Ben, I'm bringing snorkeling gear." "Aunt Diane, I need to buy a new sun hat." "Kara, we should do matching shirts for Mom's dinner night." Matching shirts. Dinner night. Snorkeling gear. My hands started to shake. Not dramatically. Just enough that I noticed it, enough that it made the air feel thin. I stood up and went to the break room for water, the way I do when my emotions threaten to show. I filled a paper cup and drank too fast, and the cold water hit my stomach like a rock. It wasn't just the money. It was the assumption. The way they made a decision involving thousands of dollars and my time and my life, and then presented it as done, as if my consent was a minor administrative detail. The surprise wasn't for Mom. It was for me. The surprise was finding out my choices had already been made. When I got back to my desk, I typed another message, slower than before. "Me, I need to look at my work schedule and finances tonight before I can confirm. I'll get back to you." It was still polite. It was still careful. It was also, quietly, a boundary. Kara's reply came within seconds. "Kara, Char, please don't do this." "Kara, it's literally for Mom." "Kara, everyone already committed." "Kara, I already told her we're doing something big." My heart dropped. There it was. She had already told Mom. She had already built the expectation. She'd already placed me in a story where my role was predetermined. Loving daughter who shows up, smiling, wallet open, grateful to be included. I read her message again. Please don't do this. As if me needing to look at my finances was an act of sabotage. I didn't respond right away. I could feel myself shrinking in that familiar way, the way I become smaller around my family's wants, because I've learned that being small is safer than being direct. Being small keeps the peace. Being small keeps you loved. But being small also keeps you broke. That night, after work, I drove home in silence, no music, just the hum of the road and my own thoughts circling. My apartment felt too quiet when I walked in, like it was holding its breath with me. I set my keys down, kicked off my shoes, and stared at the stack of mail on the counter. Bills. Always bills. I made pasta because it was cheap and because cooking gives my hands something to do while my mind panics. I ate standing up, leaning on the counter, scrolling through the group chat with one hand and twirling noodles with the other. Ben posted a link to a waterproof phone case. Kara posted a link to a boutique near the resort. Aunt Ian posted a gif of someone dancing in the sand. No one asked if I could afford it. No one asked if the dates worked. It was as if my agreement had already been assumed by default, like my presence was automatic. Like I was an accessory they could count on the way you count on sunscreen or extra towels. I finally called Kara, because I knew if I tried to handle this over text, I'd be outnumbered and misunderstood, and my words would be screenshot and forwarded like evidence. She answered on the second ring, bright and breathy, already in celebration mode. Char. I was just about to call you. Isn't it amazing? I pressed my free hand to my forehead. It looks really beautiful, I said, because that's what I always start with, validation, as if praise will soften what comes next. I know. Mom is going to lose it. I picked the room with the ocean view for her. It's going to be so special. My stomach tightened. Kara, I said gently, I need to talk to you about the cost. There was a pause. A small one. But I could hear the shift, like someone turning down the music at a party. What about it? I can't pay $3,500 by Friday, I said, and my voice sounded strange in my own ears. Too blunt. Too naked. Kara exhaled. A short laugh that wasn't humor. Charlene. It's not that much. It is for me, I said, and I hated how small my voice sounded. I tried again. It's literally more than I can spare without putting myself in a really bad spot. So put it on your card, she said immediately, like she'd been waiting to offer the solution. You have a card. Everyone has a card. I don't have a card with that kind of room on it, I said. And even if I did, I don't want to go into debt for this. Kara, I added, trying to keep the calm, I also need to check if I can even take that week off. Her tone sharpened. Everyone else is making it work. Ben took off. Diana's taking off. I'm taking off. It's 1 week. It's 1 week and it's thousands of dollars, I said. I didn't agree to this before you booked it. Another pause. This one longer. I could almost see her face, the way her eyebrows would pull together like I was being confusing on purpose. I thought you'd be excited, she said finally, her voice turning soft in that performative way. I thought you'd want to do this for Mom. You always say you feel guilty you don't see her enough. There it was. The guilt blade slid in quietly. I swallowed. I do want to do something for Mom. I do. But I can't do this trip. You can, she insisted. You're panicking. You always panic about money, but then you figure it out. I closed my eyes. My name is Charlene. And I have spent most of my life being the person who figures it out so no one else has to feel uncomfortable. I have been the quiet fixer, the calmer, the one who swallows her own needs so the family can keep moving like a train that never stops at my station. But I was tired. Not just tired in my body, though I was that too. Tired in the part of me that has always been expected to bend. Kara, I said, and I tried to keep my voice steady. It's not a panic. It's math. She made it sound like she wanted to interrupt, but I kept going before she could. You booked something expensive and assumed I could pay for it. You also assumed I'd help cover Mom. I can't. I'm telling you now so you can adjust. Her voice snapped. Adjust? How? It's non-refundable. That's why I said it. Then you shouldn't have booked it without checking with me, I said, and my heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. Silence. Then, quietly, wow. That word. One syllable, full of judgment. I'm not trying to be difficult, I said. I'm trying to be honest. You're being selfish, she said flatly. You're making this about you. My throat tightened. It is about me, I said, and the honesty surprised even me. Because you are asking me for money I don't have. Kara's voice rose. Mom has done everything for us. This is her milestone. She never asks for anything. And you can't even do this. I felt the familiar urge to apologize, to soften, to retreat. Instead, I took a breath that felt like swallowing stones. I can do something for Mom, I said. But not this. Not this trip. I can't afford it. Kara exhaled sharply. Unbelievable. I heard the faint sound of movement on her end, like she was pacing. Do you know how this is going to look? She added. There it was again. Not how it will feel. Not what it will cost me. How it will look. I don't care how it looks, I said, and that was the most rebellious sentence I'd spoken in years. Yes, you do, she snapped. You just don't want to be the bad guy. But you are. If you don't pay, I'm stuck covering you, and that means Mom gets less, or we all have to pay more. So congratulations, Charlene. You're ruining Mom's trip. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't panic. It was anger, quiet and hot. I'm not ruining anything, I said. You made a plan without me. That's on you. Kara went quiet, and then her voice took on that sweet, dangerous tone. Fine. I'll tell Mom you're not coming. My stomach dropped. Don't, I said quickly, and I hated the desperation in my voice. Don't make her feel like this is her fault. She's going to ask, Kara said. What am I supposed to say? That you're too cheap. I closed my eyes, pressing my fingers hard against my temple like I could push the headache back into my skull. Tell her I can't get off work, I said, because part of me still wanted to protect the image, to protect Mom, to protect myself from being painted as the villain. Kara laughed sharp. Sure, that'll work. Except she knows you have PTO. She's not stupid. My throat tightened. Kara, please. She didn't answer for a second, and then she said, I have to go. And she hung up. I stood in my kitchen staring at my phone. The call ended, my reflection faintly visible on the dark screen. My apartment felt smaller. The air felt thick. I could hear my own breathing like it was coming from someone else. I sat down at my tiny table and opened my laptop, as if looking at numbers again would change them. I wrote out my monthly expenses like I was building a case for myself. Rent, utilities, car, insurance, groceries, debt payments, savings. I stared at the list until the words blurred. And then I did something I rarely do. I cried, silently, without wiping my face, just letting it happen because I was alone and no one could accuse me of being dramatic. When I checked my phone again, the group chat had moved on without me. They were talking about flight times. They were already planning seating arrangements. Kara, okay everyone, flights are booked too. I got the best time so we don't waste the day. Kara, Charlene, just send your payment by Friday so I can pay off the card. Ben, nice. Aunt Diane, this is going to be such a blessing for your mother. Blessing. Like money appears when you call it holy. I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I spoke, I would either explode or fold. The next morning, I woke up to a missed call from my mother. My stomach dropped before I even listened to the voicemail. I played it, holding my breath. Hi, sweetie, Mom said, voice gentle. Call me when you get a chance, okay? Kara says you're worried about the trip. I just wanted to talk. Worried. That was how Kara framed it. Not unable. Not unwilling. Worried, like I was being anxious and irrational. Like the problem was my feelings, not their plan. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in my hand, and felt my body heavy with dread. I wanted to call Mom back immediately, to control the narrative, to soothe her before Kara could poison it further. But I also knew Mom, and I knew how she handled conflict with softness. With denial. With, we'll figure it out. She would offer to cover me, even if she couldn't. She would say she didn't need a big trip, and then she'd feel guilty for ruining it. She would try to make everyone happy, and that would mean I'd be pressured to sacrifice so she wouldn't have to feel the discomfort. I didn't call right away. I got dressed slowly, mechanically. I made coffee I barely tasted. I watched the steam curl up like a question mark. By lunchtime, the pressure had tightened around me so much I felt like I couldn't breathe. So I stepped outside my office building, sat in my car, and called my mother back. She answered right away. "Charlene," she said, warm and relieved. "Hi, honey." "Hi, Mom," I said, and I tried to sound normal, like my stomach wasn't twisting into knots. "How are you?" she asked. "Kara said you sounded upset." I closed my eyes. "I'm okay," I said, because it's my default. I need to talk to you about the trip." "Oh," she said softly, and I could hear the caution in her voice, like she was approaching a fragile thing. "I just found out about it yesterday," I said. "Kara booked it and then told me it was non-refundable." Mom sighed. "I told her she shouldn't do that without asking everyone first." That surprised me, a little spark of relief. "You did?" "Yes," she said, and her voice sounded tired. "I told her it's too much. I don't need all that." My chest tightened. "Mom," I said gently, "I want you to have something special." "I do. But I can't afford what she's asking. And I don't think it's fair that she assumed I could." Mom was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Oh, honey, you should have told me." "I'm telling you now," I said, and my voice shook. "I don't want you to feel guilty. This isn't your fault. But I can't do it." Mom's voice softened. "Charlene, I don't want anyone to fight over me." "We're not fighting over you," I said quickly, and then I realized it wasn't entirely true. We were. Mom was the banner Kara waved to make everyone fall in line. Mom sighed. "How much is it?" I told her. There was a pause, and I could hear her inhale sharply, like the number physically hit her. That's a lot," she said quietly. "Yes," I said. "It is." Mom was quiet again, and then she said, "Maybe I can talk to Kara. Maybe she can change something. Maybe she can." "It's non-refundable," I said softly. "That's what she keeps saying." Mom made a sound like she was swallowing something bitter. "She wanted it to be perfect," she murmured. "I know," I said. "But perfect for who?" Because right now it feels like she planned this and expected me to fund part of it. Mom didn't deny it. And that silence was its own confirmation. "I don't want you to go into debt," Mom said finally, firm in a way that made my eyes sting again. "I don't want that." "Thank you," I whispered. "Charlene," she added, "I love you. I don't need a resort. I need my kids to be okay." The words warmed me and hurt me at the same time, because they were true, and because I knew Kara would interpret them differently. Kara would hear that as Mom being ungrateful. Kara would hear it as sabotage. "Can I suggest something?" I said, voice careful. "Of course. I want to do something for your milestone," I said. "But something I can afford. Maybe a local weekend. Like, a really nice hotel in town, a spa day, a dinner with all of us. Or we could rent a house by the lake for 2 nights. Something special, but not this." Mom exhaled slowly. "That sounds lovely," she said. "I would love that." My throat tightened. "Okay," I said, as if saying it aloud made it more real. "Okay, I'll talk to Kara again. I'll try to handle it." Mom's voice softened again. "Just be kind," she said. "Kara means well." I closed my eyes. "I know," I said, though part of me didn't know it anymore. Or maybe I knew she meant well the way a bulldozer means well. It clears a path, but it doesn't care what it crushes. After the call, I sat in my car for a long time, looking at nothing. I could hear distant traffic, the low murmur of people walking past, the hum of my own thoughts. I realized something then, in the quiet space between obligations. This wasn't just about one trip. This was about the way my family treats my finances like a shared resource. Like my money is flexible because I'm the responsible one, the one without kids, the one who should have extra. They never see my bills. They never see my stress. They just see that I don't have a spouse to split rent with, so in their minds, I must be sitting on piles of cash. They didn't ask me because asking would allow me to say no. They told me after it was done because they believed I would feel trapped into saying yes. And I did feel trapped. But something in me was shifting, slow and stubborn, like a door that had been stuck for years was finally starting to give. That evening, I called Kara again. She didn't answer. I texted instead. I talked to Mom. She doesn't want anyone going into debt for this. I still can't afford it. Can we adjust the plan or consider a local weekend instead? The response came almost instantly, like she'd been waiting with her finger on the screen. Kara, wow. So you called Mom to get her on your side. Kara, that's low. Kara, you're turning this into drama. Kara, the trip is already booked. Everyone is excited. Do not ruin this for her. My chest tightened. I stared at the screen until the letters looked like they were vibrating. I typed slowly. I didn't call Mom to get her on my side. She called me because you told her I was worried. I'm being honest. I can't pay. I'm not going. Kara didn't respond right away. For a brief moment, there was silence, and I could almost imagine her processing, recalculating, deciding how to frame me. Then the group chat exploded. Kara, so Charlene is refusing to come and refusing to help cover Mom. Kara, after everything Mom has done for her. Kara, guess she doesn't care about family anymore. My hands went cold. My stomach dropped. I watched the messages appear like I was watching a slow-motion accident, unable to stop it. Ben, wait, what? Aunt Diane, oh Charlene. Ben, seriously, Char? This is Mom. Aunt Diane, sometimes we have to sacrifice. Kara, she's being selfish and making it everyone else's problem. I sat on my couch with my phone in my lap, staring at the words. Making it everyone else's problem. As if my inability to pay was an inconvenience I'd chosen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could defend myself. I could explain. I could lay out my budget. I could expose how unfair this was. But I also knew that in my family, explanations are treated like excuses, and the more you explain, the guiltier you look. The group chat wasn't a courtroom looking for truth. It was a stage looking for a villain. I took a breath. I thought about Mom's voice, quiet and firm. I don't want you to go into debt. And then I typed carefully in the same calm tone I use at work when someone tries to corner me into a deadline I didn't agree to. I'm not refusing to care about Mom. I'm refusing to go into debt for a trip I didn't agree to. I can't afford it. I've offered a local weekend and a special dinner to celebrate her milestone. If you want to keep the destination trip, you'll need to plan it without me financially. I love Mom, and I'm not arguing about that. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The silence that followed was heavy. It lasted long enough that my heart started pounding again, because silence in a group chat is never neutral. It's people reading, judging, deciding. Then Ben responded. Ben, that's intense. Ben, can you just pay what you can? Pay what you can. Like this was a donation jar, not a bill. Kara, no. She needs to pay her share. Kara, I already put it on my card. Kara, I'm not getting stuck with her portion because she wants to be dramatic. Dramatic. The word she always uses when someone refuses to be controlled. I stared at the screen. My mind ran through the options like a checklist. Option 1, pay and go, resent everyone, spend the trip pretending I'm not panicking every time someone suggests an extra activity. Option 2, pay and don't go, take on debt for a vacation I never took, just to keep peace. Option 3, don't pay, don't go, and accept that my family will be angry at me, maybe for a long time. I felt the weight of that third option, and in the past it would have terrified me. The thought of being the reason the group is uncomfortable, the reason the story changes tone, the reason someone has to admit they made a mistake. I had spent years avoiding that feeling. But something else rose in me, quieter than fear, steadier, relief. The relief of not lying to myself. The relief of not being pulled under by someone else's surprise. I typed one more message, and my hands were surprisingly steady. Kara, I'm sorry you put this on your card before checking with me. But I'm not paying for something I didn't agree to and can't afford. I'm stepping out of this trip. I will celebrate Mom locally, and I will contribute within my means. I'm done discussing it in this chat. I pressed send and then, before I could watch the reaction, I turned my phone face down on the coffee table. My apartment was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your own heartbeat. I sat there for a long time, listening to the silence, letting my body feel the aftermath. I knew what was coming. Kara would call. She would cry or rage or both. She would tell Mom a version of the story that made Kara the generous hero and me the selfish villain. Ben would text privately, trying to broker peace, asking me to just help a little. Aunt Diane would send a message about gratitude and sacrifice. And somewhere in all of it, Mom would feel guilty because my family's favorite magic trick is making Mom feel responsible for everyone else's choices. But for the first time, I felt something new, the hard edge of a boundary. I didn't know yet how much blowback it would bring. I didn't know how far Kara would go to punish me for refusing. I didn't know what Mom would say when Kara tried to spin it. I only knew this. I wasn't going to drown quietly anymore just so everyone else could keep floating. I should have known Kara wouldn't let it stay in the group chat. About 20 minutes after I put my phone face down, it started vibrating against the coffee table like a trapped insect. I didn't pick it up. I just watched the wood tremble. Call. Call again. Then a text preview flashed across the lock screen. Kara, answer me. This is unbelievable. I sat back on the couch and stared at the ceiling like maybe I could outweight my own family. My chest felt tight, but not with the old familiar panic. This was different. This was the feeling you get when you finally say no to someone who's built their whole personality around hearing yes. The phone buzzed again. A new name this time. Ben. Ben, can we talk? Please don't do this. It always starts like that. Not, are you okay? Not, do you really not have it? But please don't do this, like I'm the one swinging a wrecking ball, like I'm the one who booked a luxury trip without consent and then tried to invoice my siblings like a timeshare salesman. I didn't answer either of them. Instead, I stood up and walked to my kitchen, and I did a thing I only do when I'm trying to stay sane. I cleaned. I wiped down counters that were already clean. I rinsed a mug that didn't need rinsing. I moved the same spoon from one side of the sink to the other like it had offended me. My phone buzzed again. Mom. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like my body remembered gravity in a new way. I picked it up this time because I couldn't ignore her. Not because I owed anyone an explanation, but because my mother was the only person in this triangle who didn't treat my bank account like a community pool. Hi, Mom, I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a pause on the other end, just long enough for me to picture Kara standing nearby, arms crossed, feeding Mom lines. Hi, sweetheart, Mom said softly. Are you home? Yes, I said. I leaned against the counter, gripping the phone like it was a life preserver. Kara is upset, Mom began, careful. I know, I said, and I hated how my voice cracked on the last word. Mom sighed. She says you're refusing to help. That you don't care about my milestone. I closed my eyes. There it was. The storyline, delivered straight into Mom's hands like a hot dish she hadn't asked for. Mom, I said gently, that's not true. I do care. I just can't afford that trip. Silence. Then Mom's voice, quieter. How bad is it, Charlene? I swallowed. It's not like I'm about to be evicted tomorrow, I said, but it would put me in debt. It would wipe out what little cushion I have. And the way it was presented, like I had no choice, made me feel cornered. Mom exhaled, and I heard that familiar sadness in her breath. Oh, honey. Kara keeps saying it's non-refundable, I added. And she keeps saying she already put it on her card. But that doesn't mean I agreed to it. I told her, Mom said quietly. I told her she shouldn't book things like that. She doesn't listen. I pressed my forehead to the cool cabinet door. I don't want this to be on you, I said. I don't want you to feel guilty. Mom's voice tightened, just a little. I already do, she admitted. My throat closed. Mom, I never wanted a big trip, she said, and now her voice had an edge. Not anger at me, anger at the situation. I told her that. I told her I'd rather have everyone together for dinner. She said I was being modest and that I deserved luxury. Luxury. Like a crown you're forced to wear while everyone argues about who paid for the jewels. I'm sorry, I whispered, though I wasn't sure who I was apologizing to anymore. Mom paused, then said, Can I be honest? Always. I think Kara wanted this, Mom said. She wanted the pictures, the story, the big moment. She wanted to be the one who made it happen. A sharp ache hit behind my eyes. Because Mom was right. Kara loves a grand gesture. She loves the applause of being generous, as long as she doesn't have to be the only one paying for it. I'll still celebrate you, I said quickly, like I needed Mom to hear it again. I want to do something special. I can't do this. I understand, Mom said, and her voice softened again. I do. I don't want you to go into debt. I don't want anyone to. Thank you, I whispered. I'm going to talk to her, Mom said. But I can't promise she'll hear me. I know, I said, and I meant it. After I hung up, I stared at my phone for a long time, thumb hovering over the group chat. I could already imagine the messages piling up like bricks. I didn't check. Not yet. I made myself a cup of tea, even though it was late. I sat at my table and watched the steam rise. My hands finally stopped shaking. Then my doorbell rang. I froze. No one comes to my apartment unannounced. Not in my family. Not unless they're angry or they need something. The doorbell rang again, more insistent. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Kara. Of course. She was standing with her arms crossed, phone in hand, her face set in that expression she wears when she believes she's doing the right thing by force. My heart pounded, but my body moved anyway. I unlocked the door and opened it because part of me was tired of being scared of her. Kara, I said. She didn't greet me. She didn't step back. She stepped forward like my doorway was her stage. Are you kidding me? She snapped. Kara, I said again, calmer than I felt, you can't just show up. Yes, I can, she cut in. Because you're doing this over text like a coward. My jaw tightened. I'm not a coward, I said quietly. She laughed sharp. You're tanking Mom's trip and hiding behind, I can't afford it, like that's some kind of moral high ground. I felt heat rise in my chest. It's not a moral high ground. It's my reality. Kara stepped into my apartment without being invited. She looked around like she was taking inventory of my life. My small living room, my modest furniture, the stack of mail on the side table. Her eyes flicked to the kitchen, the tea, the thrift store mug. What? She said, gesturing vaguely. You can't afford it, but you can afford this? I stared at her. Tea? She rolled her eyes like I was being deliberately obtuse. Your apartment. Your car. Your whatever. You act like you're destitute. You're not. There it was. The assumption. If you're not sleeping under a bridge, you must have money you're hoarding. I'm not destitute, I said. But I'm not sitting on thousands of dollars either. You could make it work, Kara insisted. You just don't want to. I took a breath. Stop telling me what I want, I said, and my voice surprised me firm, low. I want to celebrate Mom. I want to be part of something. I don't want to be pressured into debt. Kara scoffed. Debt? Please. Put it on your card and pay it off. And then what? I snapped, and the anger finally broke through. Then I spend months catching up? Then I miss a bill because you wanted ocean views. Her eyes narrowed. So you're punishing us because you're bad with money? The words hit like a slap. I stared at her stunned. Because I am not bad with money. I am the one who budgets. The one who doesn't impulse buy. The one who doesn't book vacations on someone else's behalf and then call it love. Kara, I said slowly, you don't get to rewrite my life to make yourself right. She stepped closer, lowering her voice as if she were about to deliver a devastating truth. Do you know what Mom said after she got off the phone with you? She cried. My stomach lurched. Don't, I said, my voice tight. She cried, Kara repeated, triumph in her eyes. Because she thinks she's the reason you're not coming. She thinks she's too expensive. My hands curled into fists at my sides. And whose fault is that? I said, shaking. Because I told her I love her. I told her I want to celebrate her. You're the one who turned it into a referendum on my love. Kara's face flushed. I turned it? Are you serious? This was supposed to be a surprise. A surprise for who? I shot back. Because it wasn't a surprise for Mom if you already told her. And it wasn't a surprise for me in a good way. It was a surprise invoice. Kara opened her mouth, but I kept going, because once you start telling the truth, it's hard to stop. You booked the most expensive option because you assumed I'd pay, I said. You assumed I'd cover myself and help cover Mom. You didn't ask. You didn't check the dates. You didn't check my finances. You made a plan and then tried to trap me with non-refundable. Kara's eyes flicked, just for a second, like something inside her knew I was right. Then she hardened again. You're selfish, she said flatly. You've always been selfish. You always make everything complicated. I laughed once short, bitter. No, I said. I've always been the one who cleans up after your complications. Her face snapped. Excuse me, who paid for Mom's surprise cake last year when you forgot to order it? I said, voice rising. Who covered the restaurant deposit? Who picked up the gift because you were too busy? Who Venmo'd you when you were short on rent and you promised you'd pay me back and never did? Kara's mouth tightened. That's not the same. It's exactly the same, I said. My heart was pounding, but my mind felt clear in a way it rarely does. You plan big gestures and assume everyone else will handle the boring parts. Money, logistics, consequences. And when someone says no, you call them selfish. Kara's eyes glinted. So this is about resentment, she sneered. This is about you being jealous, because I'm doing something nice. Jealous. I repeated, incredulous. Kara, I am not jealous of being cornered into debt. She threw her hands up. Fine. Fine. If you're not coming, then you need to tell Mom yourself. You need to look her in the eye and say you don't care enough to be there. My chest tightened again. There it was, her final move. Make me the one to deliver the heartbreak. Make me the villain in person. I took a breath and then I said something I didn't know I was capable of saying. No. Kara blinked, thrown off. What? I am not doing that, I said calmly. I already talked to Mom. I told her I love her. I told her I want to celebrate her. If you want to weaponize this, that's on you. Kara's nostrils flared. You can't just opt out and leave me holding the bag. I looked her straight in the eye. I can, I said. Because I never agreed to the bag. Silence. Thick, charged. Kara's lips pressed into a thin line. So you're really doing this? Yes, I said quietly. I'm really doing this. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time, like I had stepped out of the role she wrote for me. Then she smiled. Not a happy smile. A mean one. Okay, she said softly. Then don't be surprised when the family knows who you are. And with that, she turned and walked out, letting my door swing shut behind her. I stood there, hand still on the doorknob, breathing hard. My apartment felt cold. My skin felt too tight. I knew what she meant. She was going to go on a campaign. And she did. That night, my phone lit up with private messages like incoming fire. Aunt Diane, I'm disappointed in you. Family is about sacrifice. Ben, can we please just figure this out? Kara is freaking out. Mom is stressed. Cousin Lila, heard you're bailing on Mom's trip. Yikes. Yikes. Like my financial limits were gossip. I didn't respond to most of them. I couldn't. Any answer would become part of the narrative. Charlene is defensive. Charlene is cold. Charlene is dramatic. But Ben's message sat there, blinking at me, because Ben is the kind of sibling who doesn't start fights. He just wants everything to go back to normal. And in our family, normal usually means Charlene gives in. I answered him with one sentence. Me to Ben, I can't afford it, and I'm not going into debt. I'm happy to celebrate Mom locally. That's my final answer. He called me immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call. Then another. Finally, I texted again. Me, I'm not taking calls tonight. Please respect that. The next day, Mom invited us all to her house for Sunday dinner. It felt like her way of pulling the fight out of our phones and into a room where she could finally stop it. Not a dramatic announcement. Just a quiet text. Mom, dinner Sunday at 5 if everyone's free. I want us together. In my family, that kind of message is the equivalent of a storm warning. Sunday arrived too fast. All day, my stomach churned. I cleaned my apartment again. I changed outfits twice. I practiced phrases in my head like they were lines for a play I didn't want to be in. I drove to Mom's house with my hands tight on the steering wheel, my shoulders locked up near my ears. Her neighborhood looked the same as always: quiet streets, winter bare trees, porch lights flickering on as the sun dipped. When I walked in, I smelled roast chicken and onions and the familiar warmth of Mom's kitchen. For a moment, I almost let myself relax. Almost. Then I saw Kara in the living room, perched on the couch like a queen on a throne, her posture stiff, her face already set in a practiced expression of wounded righteousness. Ben sat in an armchair, eyes darting between us like he was watching a tennis match he didn't want to umpire. Aunt Diane was there too, because of course she was Kara's favorite backup choir. Mom hugged me in the hallway, holding me a second longer than usual. "Hi, sweetie," she whispered. "Hi, Mom," I said, and my voice caught. "Happy early milestone." Her eyes were glossy, but she smiled. "Thank you." We walked into the living room together, and the air immediately changed. That heavy, expectant silence. The kind that says, "Okay, we're doing this now." Kara spoke first, because she always does. "So," she said, voice bright and cutting, "Charlene, are you ready to apologize?" Mom flinched like she'd been slapped. My heart pounded, but I kept my face calm. I set the casserole dish I'd brought on the counter like my hands were steady even if my insides weren't. "I'm not apologizing for not going into debt," I said. Ben groaned softly, rubbing his face. Aunt Diane clicked her tongue. "Oh, Charlene." Kara's smile widened. "See? This is what I mean. No humility. No gratitude." Mom stepped forward. "Kara, please." "No." Kara cut in, and her tone sharpened. "Mom, you asked us all here. You deserve the truth. Charlene is refusing to come on your trip. She's refusing to help cover you. And she's acting like we're the villains for planning something special." Mom's face tightened with pain. "I didn't ask for a trip," she said quietly. Kara froze for half a second, then recovered. "Because you never ask for anything," she said, turning it into a compliment. "That's why we wanted to do this." "And I appreciate the thought," Mom said, firmer now. "But I don't appreciate fighting." Kara's eyes flashed. "Then tell her to pay her share." Mom's gaze shifted to me. Gentle. Tired. "Charlene," she said softly, "can you tell them what you told me?" My throat tightened. Everyone's eyes pinned me. I took a breath. "I love you," I said, looking directly at Mom. "I want to celebrate your milestone. But I can't afford the destination trip Kara booked. I didn't agree to it before it was booked, and I'm not willing to go into debt." I offered alternatives: local weekend, spa day, dinner, something special we can all do together. Kara scoffed. "A spa day? Wow. How generous." I turned to her. "Stop," I said quietly. Her eyebrows shot up. "Stop what?" "Stop acting like my boundaries are an insult," I said. "You decided the most expensive option without checking with me. You assumed I would pay. That's not love. That's pressure." Aunt Diane leaned forward. "Charlene, honey, sometimes you don't measure things in dollars." I looked at her. "Actually," I said, voice steady, "I have to. Because if I don't, I can't pay rent. I can't pay bills. I can't keep my life stable." Ben finally spoke, voice pleading. "Can we just compromise? Kara, can you downsize something? Charlene, can you pay a little? Just so Mom doesn't feel." Mom lifted a hand. "Ben," she said gently, "I don't want anyone paying a little. I want everyone to stop." The room went quiet. Kara's face tightened. "So you're choosing her," she said to Mom, voice low. Mom blinked, hurt. "I'm choosing peace," she said. Kara stood up abruptly. "Unbelievable," she muttered. "I try to do something nice, and I get punished." I felt my pulse spike. I could see where this was going. The martyr speech. The dramatic exit. The narrative cemented, Kara the giver, Charlene the taker. I stood up too, surprising myself. "Kara," I said, "tell the truth." Her eyes snapped to mine. "Excuse me?" "Tell the truth," I repeated, voice calm but firm. "Did you ask me before you booked it?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Mom's eyes flicked between us. Ben shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Diane's lips pressed together. Kara lifted her chin. "I assumed," she said, like it was a confession she was proud of. "Because you're her daughter. Because you always say you want to do more. Because it's family." "And did you choose the most expensive option because you wanted Mom to have it?" I asked. "Or because you wanted the nicest trip, period?" Kara's face flushed. "How dare you?" "I'm not attacking you," I said. "I'm asking you to own what you did. You wanted this. You wanted the photos and the story and the look what I planned moment. And you expected me to subsidize it. Kara's voice rose. You are so bitter. You're making me the villain because you can't keep up. My hands were shaking again, but I kept my voice level. I'm not trying to keep up, I said. I'm trying to live within my means. And I'm done being shamed for that. The room felt like it was vibrating. Mom sat down slowly, as if her legs suddenly didn't trust her. I don't want this trip, she said again, quieter. Not if it makes everyone hate each other. Kara stared at her like she'd been betrayed. So you're saying no? Mom nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm saying I want a dinner. I want to laugh. I want to feel loved. Not like this. Kara's jaw clenched. And then, like a switch flipped, she turned her gaze to me, eyes cold. Fine, she said. If Mom won't go, then I guess I'm stuck with a non-refundable trip. Ben blinked. Wait, what? Kara grabbed her purse. I'm going, she said quickly. With friends. Because I'm not wasting money. There it was. The quiet truth in the open. It was never only about Mom. Mom's face crumpled. Kara. Kara didn't look back. Happy milestone, she said flatly, and walked out. The front door slammed. The silence that followed was enormous. Mom covered her mouth with her hand and started to cry, small and broken. Ben swore under his breath, staring at the floor. Aunt Diane shifted, suddenly unsure of a role without Kara leading. I moved to Mom, kneeling beside her chair. Mom, I whispered, reaching for her hand. I'm so sorry. She squeezed my fingers. I just wanted dinner, she cried softly. I know, I said, blinking back my own tears. And we can still have that. We can still make today good. Ben finally stood, rubbing his eyes. I didn't know she'd do that. I looked at him. You did, I said quietly. You just didn't want to admit it. He flinched, and for a second I felt guilty. Then I remembered how many years I'd swallowed my truth to keep him comfortable. Aunt Diane cleared her throat awkwardly. Well, she said, trying to regain footing, she did put money down. It's stressful. Mom's eyes snapped up, sharper than I'd seen in a long time. Diane, she said, voice trembling but firm, not now. Aunt Diane fell silent. And something in me settled. A boundary line, drawn in ink. Because for the first time, Mom was seeing it too. Kara's grand gesture had finally revealed itself. It wasn't generosity if it required coercion. It wasn't love if it demanded debt. Dinner happened anyway. Not cheerful at first. But slowly, like thawing ice, the tension eased. Mom ate a little. Ben apologized in a quiet, clumsy way. We lit candles. We talked about old memories that didn't involve money. We laughed once, then twice. When I left that night, Mom hugged me tight and whispered, "Thank you for being honest." But when I got into my car and looked at my phone, there was a new message waiting from Kara. Kara, since you opted out, you owe me for the deposit. $600. Pay it by Wednesday. Don't make me take this further. My stomach dropped. Because the trip drama wasn't over. It was changing shape. And Kara was about to find out that my boundary wasn't just words in a group chat. It was real. My hands were still on the steering wheel when I read Kara's message a second time, like repetition might change the words into something less absurd. Pay it by Wednesday. Don't make me take this further. The deposit. $600. Like she was billing me for the privilege of being ambushed. I sat in the driveway outside my apartment building for a full minute, engine off, phone glowing in my lap, feeling that old familiar heat rise, equal parts dread and fury. In the past, that message would have worked. I would have panicked, pictured her telling the whole family I stiffed her, imagined Mom crying again, and I would have sent the money just to make the noise stop. But something had shifted at Mom's house. Not just in me, though definitely in me, but in the air around the truth. Kara had said, out loud, she was taking the trip with friends if Mom wouldn't go. And everyone had heard it. Her saint costume had slipped. I walked upstairs, unlocked my door, and didn't even take my coat off before I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. Because if Kara wanted to take this further, I needed to know what further actually meant. First, I pulled up the group chat and scrolled back to the beginning of the surprise announcement. I screenshot everything. The part where she said it was booked, the part where she demanded payment by Friday, The part where she said she'd already put it on her card, and the part where she publicly accused me of ruining Mom's trip. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop and dumped the screenshots in like evidence in a case file. I felt ridiculous doing it, like I was preparing for court over a vacation. But I'd been around Kara long enough to understand this. She doesn't argue to resolve. She argues to win. And when she can't win emotionally, she tries paperwork, threats, shame, proof. So I made my own. I replied to her message with the calmest words I could manage. I didn't agree to the trip before you booked it, including the deposit. I'm not paying for something I never consented to. Please stop threatening me. I stared at the message before I sent it, waiting for the familiar guilt wave to hit. It didn't. I hit send. Her typing bubbles appeared immediately, like she'd been hovering. Kara, wow. Kara, so you're really leaving me with this. Kara, you know what? Fine. Kara, I'll just post the receipts and let everyone see what kind of person you are. Kara, Mom included. My throat tightened. There it was. She didn't want money. She wanted submission. The $600 was just a collar she thought she could snap back onto my neck. I didn't answer. Instead, I texted Mom. Kara is demanding $600 for the deposit and threatening me. I'm not paying. Just wanted you to know in case she tries to upset you. Mom responded a few minutes later. Mom, don't pay her. I'm sorry. We'll talk. 2 sentences. A tiny miracle. I set my phone down and exhaled slow. For once, Mom wasn't asking me to keep the peace. She was choosing truth over comfort. The next morning, I woke up to a new message in the group chat posted at 6:12 a.m. because Kara loves an early morning moral crusade. Kara, I'm honestly devastated. Kara, I booked Mom's milestone trip out of love, and now I'm stuck with Charlene's portion because she backed out after everything was booked. Kara, I didn't want to say anything, but she refuses to reimburse me even for the deposit. Kara, I guess that tells you everything. Ben replied with a single. Ben, Kara. Aunt Diane. Aunt Diane, this is heartbreaking. Charlene, please do the right thing. And then, like a slap. Cousin Lila, wow Charlene. Not cool. I stared at the screen and felt my heart kick up again. Not because I was tempted to pay, because I wasn't, but because I could feel the old family machine starting up, the one that labels you, shames you, reduces you to a role so everyone else can stay comfortable. The difference this time was that I wasn't alone. Mom had seen the moment Kara revealed herself. Ben had seen it too, even if he didn't want to admit it. The spell wasn't as strong. Still, the messages kept coming. Aunt Diane, you have always been so independent. But independence doesn't mean you abandon family. Kara, Mom would never treat you like this. Kara, I'm not asking for the full amount anymore. Just the $600 deposit. That's it. That's all. That's all. Like it was pocket change. Like I wouldn't need groceries because guilt is apparently nutritious. I didn't respond in the group chat. Instead, I messaged Ben privately. Me to Ben, I didn't agree to this trip. I'm not paying Kara. I'm happy to celebrate Mom locally. That hasn't changed. He didn't answer right away. So I did something else I normally avoid. I called him. He picked up on the 3rd ring, voice tired. Char. I'm not fighting, I said immediately. But I need you to hear me. He sighed. I hear you. Do you? I asked. Because she's framing it like I backed out after committing. That's not what happened. I never said yes. I know, he said quietly. And then, like someone admitting a truth they've been swallowing, she shouldn't have booked it. My chest tightened. Thank you. But Kara's, she's freaking out, he added. She says she put it on her card, Ben, I cut in gently. Did you Venmo her? A pause. Yes. Did you agree before she booked it? Another pause. No, he admitted. I closed my eyes. So she did it to you too. She said it was for Mom, he mumbled. And now she's using Mom to make you pay, I said. That's the pattern. Ben was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed, long and resigned. What do you want me to do? I swallowed. I want you to stop enabling it, I said. I want you to stop acting like her panic is everyone's responsibility. He exhaled. Okay, he said, and it sounded like it hurt. Okay. I'll talk to her. Don't talk to her, I said quickly. She'll twist it. Just don't pile on me. And don't let her upset Mom. Ben's voice softened. I'm sorry, he said. For what it's worth. I'm sorry. After we hung up, my phone buzzed again. A new text from Kara, direct this time, like a blade slid under the group chat noise. Kara, if you don't pay the $600, I'm telling everyone why you're really doing this. Kara, you've always been jealous of me. Kara, you can't stand that I'm the one Mom relies on now. Kara, I'm not going to let you smear me. I stared at the text until I felt my pulse slow, because suddenly I could see it clearly. This wasn't about money. It was about control. If she could force me to pay, she could force me back into the old family order. Kara declares, Charlene complies. And if I didn't pay, she needed to reframe it into something uglier than Charlene can't afford it. She needed to make it character. Jealousy. Pettiness. Something that made me the problem, not her behavior. I didn't answer her. Instead, I emailed myself the screenshots and saved them to a cloud folder. I also wrote down a timeline because my brain is good at forgetting stress in the name of peace. Tuesday, trip announced after booking, called non-refundable. Tuesday, payment demanded by Friday. Wednesday, I said I needed to check finances and schedule. Thursday, I told Kara I couldn't afford it. Sunday, Mom said she didn't want the trip if it caused fighting. Kara said she'd go with friends. Sunday night, Kara demanded $600 and threatened to take this further. Just facts. No emotion. No editorializing. Then I did something that made my hands tremble again. I called Mom. She answered softly. Hi, honey. Hi, I said, and my voice tightened. Kara's escalating. She's threatening me and stirring the group chat. Mom's sigh came out heavy. I know, she said. She called me this morning. My stomach dropped. What did she say? Mom was quiet for a beat. Then, she said you're ungrateful. She said you're embarrassing her. She said you always ruin special things. The words hit me like they'd been waiting in the air for years. I swallowed hard. What did you say? Mom's voice steadied. I told her to stop, she said. I told her I didn't ask for any of it. I told her if she keeps attacking you, she's not welcome at my house for my birthday dinner. I went still. You what? Mom exhaled. I'm tired, Charlene, she said softly. I'm tired of being used. I'm tired of you being blamed. She's been pushy for a long time. I see it now. My eyes filled, not with sadness, but with something closer to relief and grief tangled together. Relief that Mom was finally seeing it. Grief for how long it took and how many times I'd swallowed myself to keep Kara comfortable. Thank you, I whispered. Mom's voice softened. I love you, she said. I don't want your money. I want you safe. That word, safe, broke something open in me. After we hung up, the group chat started again. Kara, I guess Mom doesn't want me at dinner now. Kara, because Charlene manipulated her. Kara, just so everyone knows, I'm done. I'm done trying. Ben replied, finally, and his message was longer than usual. Ben, Kara, stop. Ben, Charlene didn't manipulate anyone. Ben, you booked this without asking either of us. Ben, Mom didn't even want it. Ben, you need to stop using her as leverage. I stared at Ben's message stunned. Then Kara responded with a single line. Kara, wow. So you're all against me now. Aunt Diane jumped in, of course. Aunt Diane, let's all calm down. Kara was only trying to do something nice. And there it was. The old pattern trying to reassert itself, soothe the loudest person so everyone else can breathe again. But Mom, quiet, steady Mom, sent the message that changed everything. Mom, I don't want this trip. I asked for a family dinner. That is my milestone wish. Mom, Charlene is not paying for something she didn't agree to. Mom, Kara, if you keep attacking your sister, you will not be part of my celebration. The chat went silent. No emojis. No gifs. No moral lectures. Just stillness. I sat at my kitchen table and let the silence wash over me, my hands finally unclenching. My heart still pounded, but the fear was shifting into something else, something steadier. Kara didn't respond for almost an hour. When she finally did, It was to me privately. Kara, you think you won. Kara, you'll regret this. I stared at her words and realized something strange. They didn't scare me the way they used to. Because I hadn't won anything. I had just stopped losing myself. And Kara. Kara was about to find out what happens when the person you've been leaning on steps away. But the story wasn't over yet. Because 2 days later, a thick envelope appeared in my mailbox, no return address, just my name in Kara's looping handwriting. Inside was a printed invoice. And at the bottom, in bold, final notice. I held the envelope like it was contaminated. Not because paper can hurt you, but because I knew the intent behind it. Kara didn't send that invoice because she believed it was legal. She sent it because she believed it was scary. She wanted me to feel small again. She wanted me to feel like I'd done something wrong and now there would be consequences, like she could drag me into a courtroom and point at me while everyone nodded sadly. Final notice. I sat at my kitchen table. The invoice spread out in front of me like a parody of adulthood. It had line items, deposit reimbursement, time spent coordinating, emotional distress, even a ridiculous add-on for loss of group discount. She'd typed it up in a template that made it look official, like she'd Googled invoice generator, and decided she was now a small business. At the bottom, pay by Wednesday or I will pursue other options. I laughed once, a short sound I didn't recognize as mine. It wasn't funny. It was absurd. And the absurdity did something for my nervous system that weeks of therapy could never quite achieve. It snapped the spell. This wasn't a family emergency. This wasn't a legal notice. It was a threat dressed up as paperwork. I took a photo of it, front and back. Then I slid it into the folder with my screenshots like I was building a museum exhibit titled The Day Kara Finally Lost Her Mind. And then I did what I should have done earlier. I wrote her one email. Not a text. Not a group chat message. An email, time-stamped, calm, boring, impossible to twist. Subject, trip deposit demand. Kara, I did not agree to the destination trip or any deposits before you booked. I will not reimburse you for expenses incurred without my consent. Please stop contacting me with threats or demands about this. If you continue to harass me or attempt to involve others to pressure me, I will block your number. Charlene. I stared at it before sending, half expecting guilt to crawl up my spine and whisper, this is too harsh. But it wasn't harsh. It was clean. It was factual. It was the kind of boundary that doesn't offer a debate stage. I hit send. Then I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, made myself a sandwich, and tried to live like a normal person. For about 45 minutes. That's how long it took Kara to light the family on fire again. My phone started buzzing even on Do Not Disturb because it was a call from Mom. My favorites were allowed through. I answered immediately. Mom? Hi honey, she said, voice tight. Kara is, she paused, like she was deciding whether to soften it. She's at my house. My stomach dropped. Right now? Yes, Mom said. She showed up with Diane. Of course. Kara never storms a castle alone. She brings a witness. Do you want me to come? I asked, already grabbing my keys out of habit. No, Mom said firmly. No, sweetheart. I don't want you in the middle of it. I just wanted you to know what's happening. My hand froze on the keys. What is she doing? Mom exhaled, long and tired. She brought papers, she said, and I could hear the disbelief in her voice. She's saying she's going to take you to small claims court. I closed my eyes. Mom. I told her she's embarrassing herself, Mom said, and there was steel in her tone that made my throat tighten. I told her if she wants to waste her energy on this, she can do it somewhere else. A lump rose in my throat. Is Diane? Diane is doing her usual, Mom said, voice clipped. Saying we should all calm down, saying Kara is stressed, saying you should just pay to keep the peace. I let out a shaky breath. And what did you say? Mom's voice didn't waver. I said peace bought with someone else's wallet isn't peace, she said. It's bullying. I sat down hard on the edge of my couch. My eyes stung. I'm sorry, I whispered again, even though my apology felt useless. Mom softened slightly. Don't be, she said. This is not your fault. We hung up, and I sat there staring at the wall, listening to the quiet hum of my refrigerator. It was surreal. My family was having a full-blown legal-themed melodrama over a trip my mother didn't even want. Then my phone buzzed with a new message. From Ben. Ben, Kara is spiraling. She's saying she's gonna teach you a lesson. Ben, Mom kicked her out. Ben, Diane is mad at Mom now. Ben, are you okay? I stared at his last line, are you okay? And felt something in me unclench. That question was rare in our family. It felt like rain after a drought. Me, I'm okay. Shaken, but okay. I'm not paying her. I'm not engaging. Ben, good. Don't. A minute later, another message popped up in the family group chat. Kara, since some people want to pretend they're victims, here are the facts. Kara, I planned a milestone trip for Mom. I paid deposits. I coordinated everything. Kara, Charlene backed out and left me with the cost. Kara, Mom is letting Charlene manipulate her into turning on me. Kara, I'm done being scapegoated. She attached a photo of my invoice. And then, because she couldn't resist the dramatic flourish, she posted another photo. A screenshot of a Google search, how to file in small claims court. My body went cold for a second, not because I feared court, but because I could see exactly what she was doing. She wanted the family to panic on her behalf and rush to pressure me into paying, to stop the spectacle. She wanted to turn her threat into a group project. Aunt Diane responded immediately. Aunt Diane, Kara, you're upset. Let's not do anything extreme. Aunt Diane, Charlene, please just pay the deposit and move on. For your mother. For your mother. Always the same song. Ben wrote. Ben, Kara, stop posting this. You booked without asking. Ben, Charlene doesn't know you. Then, unexpectedly, another name chimed in. Uncle Roy. Uncle Roy rarely spoke in the group chat. He was the kind of relative who read everything and only typed when something got truly ridiculous. Uncle Roy, Kara, you can't invoice people for things you did without asking them. Uncle Roy, this is embarrassing. Stop. I blinked at the screen. Kara replied like a wounded celebrity. Kara, wow. So everyone's dogpiling now. Then she left the group chat. Just like that. Her exit wasn't quiet. It was designed to make everyone feel guilty for not clapping. The chat went eerily calm after that, like the air after thunder. And in that calm, I got a private message from Aunt Diane. Aunt Diane, I understand you're stressed, but you're taking this too far. Kara is hurt. She loves your mother. You could fix this with one payment. I stared at Diane's message and felt that familiar old tug. Maybe $600 is cheaper than family drama. But then I remembered Mom's words. Peace bought with someone else's wallet isn't peace. It's bullying. I replied to Diane with one sentence. Me, I won't pay for something I didn't agree to. Please stop asking me to. Then I blocked her for the night. I didn't block Kara yet. Not because I wanted access to her rage, but because I wanted to keep a record if she escalated. And she did. 2 days later, I got an email notification from my apartment building's management portal. New resident message. My stomach turned as I clicked it. It was from Kara. She had emailed my landlord. She must have pulled the management contact from the old emergency contact paperwork Mom made us share years ago, back when Kara still had everyone's info just in case. The message was rambling and oddly formal, full of phrases like financial irresponsibility and failure to meet obligations. She implied, without outright saying, that I was behind on rent and might abandon the unit, and she asked if they could confirm my lease status. My hands went numb. I sat there staring at the screen, my mind blanking out in that protective way it does when something feels too invasive to process. Then anger hit, hot, sharp, clean. This wasn't family drama anymore. This was sabotage. I immediately called the management office. My voice shook, but I kept it professional. Hi, I said. I'm calling because someone named Kara, last name, contacted you about me. She's not authorized to discuss anything related to my lease. I'm current on rent. She's harassing me. The property manager, a calm woman named Denise, who always sounded like she'd seen it all, sighed. Yes, Denise said. We received a strange email. We didn't respond. Your account is in good standing. Relief flooded me so fast I had to grip the edge of my desk. Thank you, I said, voice tight. Can you note in my file that she has no authority to contact you and that any future messages from her should be ignored? Absolutely, Denise said. And Charlene, if she continues, let us know. That's not okay. I hung up and sat there, breathing hard. Kara had crossed a line I didn't even know existed. She wasn't just trying to shame me, she was trying to destabilize my housing, my security, my basic life. And she did it casually, like she had a right. That night, Mom called me again. I heard what she did, Mom said, voice trembling with fury. How? I asked. She bragged, Mom said, and her disgust was palpable. She said, now Charlene will learn she can't just ignore me. My stomach twisted. Mom. I told her to leave, Mom said, and now her voice cracked. I told her not to come back until she can apologize. Not to you. To you. I sat down, tears rising again, not because I was weak, but because I was stunned by the firmness in my mother. My mother, who always tried to keep everyone comfortable, was finally choosing a side, not mine exactly, just the side of decency. I don't want you to carry this, I whispered. I should have stopped it years ago, Mom said softly. I didn't realize how much she was taking. There was a long pause, filled with the weight of old patterns finally being named. Then Mom said, your milestone dinner is next Saturday. I blinked. Your milestone dinner, I repeated, and my voice almost laughed. Because yes, Mom had taken her celebration back. Yes, Mom said, and I could hear a small smile. And I want you there. Just dinner. No drama. No speeches. Just us. My chest ached with something tender. I'll be there, I said. After we hung up, I opened my laptop again and did one more thing. I wrote Kara a final message. Not emotional. Not pleading. Not angry. Just a line in the sand. Kara, you contacted my landlord. That is harassment. Do not contact my workplace, landlord, or anyone else about me again. If you continue, I will document it and take appropriate action to protect myself. Charlene. I sent it, saved it, and then, finally, I blocked her. The silence that followed was strange. Not peaceful, exactly, more like the moment after you shut a door on a storm and realize your house is still standing. But I knew Kara. Blocking her wouldn't stop her. It would just force her to get creative. And sure enough, 3 days later, Ben texted me. Ben, heads up. Ben, Kara is telling everyone you stole from Mom. Ben, she's saying Mom gave you money and you're refusing to pay it back. Ben, she's rewriting everything. My stomach dropped. Because Kara wasn't just attacking me anymore. She was rewriting history. And if she succeeded, she wouldn't need a court. She'd have a jury. The phrase you stole from Mom sat in my stomach like a stone. Not because it was believable. Anyone who actually knew my mother knew she would rather swallow nails than accuse her child of theft, but because it was the kind of lie that doesn't need to be true to cause damage. It just needs to be loud enough, repeated enough, framed with enough outrage that people start thinking, well, maybe there's more to the story. And Kara was excellent at more to the story. I stared at Ben's text and felt my pulse climb again. Me? Who is everyone? Ben, Diane, some cousins. She called Grandma. Ben, she's saying Mom paid your bills for years and you're ungrateful. Ben, it's messy. I exhaled slowly through my nose, the way I do when I'm trying not to cry in public. My mother had helped me once years ago with a deposit when I moved into my first apartment after a breakup. Not because she had a ton of money, because she wanted me safe. I'd paid her back in installments until she told me to stop and use it for groceries. And I'd spent the next decade making sure she never had to worry about me again, because the shame of needing help had burrowed deep. Now Kara was turning that one act of love into a weapon. I didn't want to engage. I didn't want to get dragged into a family trial where my finances were dissected like a crime scene. But I also knew silence could be interpreted as guilt when someone like Kara is controlling the narrative. So I did the one thing Kara hated most. I spoke calmly, publicly, with facts. I unblocked the family group chat only long enough to post one message. Me, I want to address the rumors being spread. Me, I did not agree to the destination trip before it was booked. I am not responsible for expenses incurred without my consent. Me, I have not stolen from Mom. That is false and harmful. Me, if anyone has questions, ask me directly. Please stop spreading accusations. Then I blocked the chat again. My hands shook as I did it, but my mind stayed clear. I wasn't begging. I wasn't explaining my budget. I wasn't pleading for understanding. I was refusing the performance Kara wanted, refusing to scramble. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Mom. I answered on the first ring. Hi. Honey, she said, voice tight. Ben told me what she's saying. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, I whispered, reflexive. No, Mom said firmly. No, don't you apologize. I'm the one who's sorry. My throat tightened. Mom. She called your grandmother, Mom said, her voice trembling with anger. Your grandmother, Charlene. And she told her you took advantage of me. I swallowed, nausea rising. What did Grandma say? Mom made a sound like she was tired. Your grandmother said, well, Charlene always was sensitive. She paused. As if sensitivity is a crime. My chest ached. I don't want you dealing with this, I said. I'm dealing with it because I let it go too long, Mom replied. I kept thinking Kara would grow out of it. That it was just personality. Strong-willed. But this. She exhaled sharply. This is cruelty. The word hit me hard. Because it was true. And because hearing my mother say it felt like something in our family mythology cracking open. Mom continued, quieter now. I want you to come over tomorrow. My stomach tightened. For what? I want us to sit down, she said. You, me, Ben. And Kara, if she'll come. Not to fight. To set rules. Rules. My family didn't do rules. We did feelings and guilt and quiet grudges that lasted years. Mom, I said gently, Kara won't follow rules. She will if I make it a condition, Mom said, and her voice had a firmness I hadn't heard from her in years. Or she can choose not to be part of my milestone dinner. That's her decision. I swallowed. Okay, I said, because I could hear it in her voice. She wasn't asking me to fix Kara. She was asking me to witness her drawing a boundary. The next day, I drove to Mom's house with my stomach in knots. I parked at the curb and sat in my car for a minute, hands gripping the steering wheel, forcing my breathing to slow. Inside, the house smelled like coffee and something sweet Mom had baked, because she bakes when she's stressed, the way I clean. Ben was already there when I walked in. He stood up immediately, looking like a man about to attend his own sentencing. Hey, he said quietly. Hey, I replied. Mom hugged me and held on longer than usual. Thank you for coming, she whispered. We sat at the kitchen table, our childhood table, where we'd done homework and eaten cereal and fought over the last slice of toast. Mom placed a plate of cookies in the center like this was a normal gathering, like she could soften the sharpness with sugar. Kara arrived 20 minutes late. Of course she did. She walked in wearing sunglasses even though we were indoors, as if she were a celebrity avoiding paparazzi. She didn't greet me. She kissed Mom's cheek quickly, patted Ben's shoulder, and sat down like she was doing us a favor. Let's make this quick, she said, taking off her sunglasses and folding them carefully, like a prop. Mom didn't flinch. She looked at Kara with a steadiness that made my chest tighten. No, Mom said. We're not rushing. We're addressing what you've been doing. Kara blinked, then laughed softly. Okay, sure. What I've been doing. You've been harassing Charlene, Mom said. You've been spreading lies. You contacted her landlord. Kara's jaw tightened. I didn't harass her. I asked a question. You implied she was unstable and might abandon her lease, Mom snapped, sharper than I'd ever heard her. That's not a question. That's sabotage. Ben shifted, eyes wide. I'd never seen Mom speak like that to Kara. Kara's eyes flashed. So this is a setup, she said, turning to Ben. You're all ganging up on me. Mom lifted a hand. Stop, she said. One word. A command. Kara went still, stunned by the tone. Mom continued, voice calmer now but firm. This is not about you being ganged up on. This is about your behavior. Kara scoffed. My behavior? I planned a trip for you. I didn't ask for it, Mom said. And you used my name to pressure people into paying. Kara leaned forward, eyes bright with indignation. Because it was for you. Because you deserve it. Mom didn't take the bait. You told people it was non-refundable so they couldn't say no, she said. You did not ask Charlene or Ben before you booked it. Kara's gaze flicked to Ben. You paid, she said accusingly. Ben swallowed. Yeah, he admitted. Because you told me it was already done. Kara's lips tightened. So you're blaming me for you paying? Ben's shoulders rose and fell. I'm saying you didn't give me a choice. Kara's face flushed. She turned to me as if I were the source of everything wrong. And you, she said, voice dripping. You could have just paid the deposit. You could have helped. But you wanted to make me look bad. I felt my pulse spike, but I kept my voice even. I didn't need to make you look bad, Kara, I said quietly. You did that all by yourself. Kara's eyes widened. Excuse me. Mom cut in before Kara could explode. Enough, she said. She looked at Kara the way a teacher looks at a student who has exhausted all chances. These are my rules, Mom said, and her voice was steady enough to make the room feel different. 1. You will stop contacting Charlene's landlord, workplace, or anyone in her life to pressure her. 2. You will stop spreading lies about her stealing, about her money, about anything. 3. You will not discuss this trip with the family as if Charlene owes you. She does not. 4. If you violate these rules, you are not invited to my milestone dinner. Kara stared at Mom as if Mom had spoken another language. You're choosing her over me, Kara said, voice low. Mom's eyes softened, just a little, but she didn't bend. I'm choosing what's right, she said. I'm choosing peace. And I'm choosing to stop being used as a weapon. Kara's breathing quickened. I could see her searching for an angle, a hook, a way to yank Mom back into old patterns. Then she turned, suddenly, to Ben. So you're okay with this? She demanded. You're okay letting her disrespect me? Ben looked like he wanted to disappear. Then, slowly, he lifted his chin. Kara, he said, voice shaky but real, you crossed a line. Kara's face snapped with fury. Unbelievable. She stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. Fine, she spat. Have your precious dinner without me. Mom didn't flinch. That is your choice, she said quietly. Kara stared at her, stunned that Mom didn't chase her. Then she grabbed her purse, turned, and stormed out. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the framed photos in the hallway. The house went still. Mom's shoulders sagged like she'd been holding her breath for years. Ben pressed his fingers to his eyes. I sat frozen, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Finally, Mom whispered, I'm sorry. Ben let out a broken laugh. She's going to go nuclear. Mom nodded slowly. Maybe, she said. But not in my name anymore. I reached across the table and took Mom's hand. Her skin felt warm and familiar. I don't want this to ruin your milestone, I said softly. Mom squeezed my hand. It won't, she said. Because I'm not letting her. For a moment, it felt like relief. Then Ben's phone buzzed. He looked down, his face draining of color. What? I asked, heart dropping. Ben held up the screen. A new post. On Facebook. From Kara. Public. And the first line read, sometimes the people you sacrifice for will stab you in the back. My stomach turned. Because Kara wasn't just rewriting history in family chats anymore. She was taking it to an audience. And she had tagged Mom. The air went out of the kitchen. Ben's phone screen glowed between us like a flare. I could see Kara's post clearly, her words carefully vague, but emotionally loaded, crafted to make people ask who hurt you, and then rush to comfort her before they even knew what happened. Sometimes the people you sacrifice for will stab you in the back. Below it was a photo. Not of Mom. Not of a family memory. A screenshot of Kara's fake invoice, cropped to look official, with the bold final notice front and center. And then the tags. Mom. Ben. Me. My stomach turned so hard I thought I might actually throw up. Mom stared at the screen, blinking slowly, like her brain couldn't accept that one of her kids had just put family business on Facebook as a weapon. She tagged me, Mom whispered, like it hurt her mouth to say it. Ben's voice came out tight. She tagged Mom. I felt heat crawl up my neck, anger and embarrassment and fear all at once. The fear wasn't about strangers believing Kara. It was about how quickly a lie becomes a story once it has an audience. I pulled out my phone and opened Facebook. My hands shook so much I mistyped my password once. Kara's post already had comments. Her friend from high school. OMG, you don't deserve this broken heart. A cousin I barely talk to. Family can be the worst. Stay strong. Aunt Diane, of course. You have such a good heart, Kara. People don't appreciate you. Then a friend of Mom's, one of her church ladies, commented, Is everything okay? Should we pray? Mom made a sound that wasn't quite a sob, not quite a laugh. Just disbelief. She's humiliating me, Mom said quietly. And that's when something in me hardened, not into cruelty, but into clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was Kara choosing public humiliation as leverage. I looked at Mom. Do you want me to respond? I asked. Mom's eyes were shiny. I don't want this on Facebook, she whispered. I don't want strangers judging my kids. Ben rubbed his face. If we respond, she'll just escalate. I nodded slowly. They were both right in different ways. If we responded publicly, Kara would treat it like a debate stage and perform victimhood harder. If we stayed silent, Kara would claim silence as proof. And I knew Kara's favorite move. If you don't deny it, it must be true. I took a breath and made a decision that felt oddly calm. I'm not responding on Facebook, I said. But I'm not letting this spread unchallenged either. Ben frowned. What does that mean? It means I'm going to message the people who matter, I said, and I looked at Mom. Your friends. Your sister. Grandma. The relatives who actually influence the family story. Mom flinched. I don't want you dragged into it more. I'm already in it, I said gently. And she tagged you. That makes you a target too. Mom swallowed hard and nodded, defeated. So I opened my notes app and wrote a short statement, again, boring and factual, like a police report. Kara booked a destination trip without confirming availability or budget with everyone. She announced it after booking and called it non-refundable. She demanded payment by a deadline. I declined because I can't afford it and did not consent to the booking. Mom did not request this trip and asked for a local dinner instead. Kara has been spreading false accusations and escalating. I copied it into private messages one by one. To Grandma with extra softness because Grandma is old school and loves family unity, even when unity means silence. Me to Grandma, I want you to hear this directly from me. Kara booked a trip without asking me. I never agreed and I can't afford it. I am not stealing from Mom. Mom asked for a local dinner. Kara is upset and posting online. I love you and Mom. I'm not debating this publicly. To Mom's church friend who commented, should we pray? Me, thank you for caring about Mom. She's okay, but she's hurt. This is a family disagreement that shouldn't be online. Please don't engage with the post. Mom just wants peace. To Aunt Diane, because if anyone was going to fuel Kara's fire, it was her. Me to Diane, this is not up for debate. Kara booked without my consent. I'm not paying. Please stop commenting publicly and stop involving Mom's friends. Then I put my phone down and looked at Mom. Now, I said quietly, you should untag yourself. Mom blinked. I can do that? Yes, Ben said quickly, suddenly protective. Mom, you can remove the tag and hide the post from your timeline. Mom looked lost in the mechanics, but Ben took her phone and did it for her. Watching him do that made something click in me. Ben was done being neutral. Mom was done being used. The family tide was shifting. And Kara could feel it, so she was swinging harder. Within an hour, Kara posted again. This time with more detail, still vague enough to avoid outright defamation, but pointed. I planned something beautiful for my mom's milestone and got punished for it. If you're the type who thinks consent doesn't matter when it's family, you're the problem. Consent. She used the word like a sneer. Like it was something dramatic people say online, not something that applies to money and time and adult decisions. Then she added, some people will always play the victim to avoid accountability, even when they owe you. My phone buzzed with texts. Cousin Lila, seriously, can't you just pay her the deposit? This is getting ugly. Aunt Diane, Mom is devastated. Fix it. Ben, don't respond. She's fading. Then, oddly, a message from someone I didn't expect. Maya, Mom's neighbor, the one who always brings her extra soup when she's sick. Maya, honey, I saw the post. I'm so sorry. Your mom looks heartbroken. Don't worry, most people know Kara is intense. Intense. That was the polite word. I looked at Mom, who was sitting at her kitchen table staring at her hands like she didn't recognize her own family anymore. Mom, I said softly, I'm going to ask you something and you can say no. She looked up, eyes tired. Do you want me to still plan your local milestone weekend? I asked. Not for Facebook. Not for anyone else. For you. Her lips trembled. Yes, she whispered. I want that so badly. Okay, I said, and my voice steadied. Then that's what we're doing. Ben nodded. I'm in, he said. Tell me what to pay and when. Mom flinched at pay, but I squeezed her hand. Ben's choosing, I said gently. Not being pressured. Ben swallowed and nodded again. We planned it right there, quietly, like we were building something sacred out of the rubble Kara left. A nice dinner at Mom's favorite restaurant, her actual favorite, not some expensive place Kara would choose for photos. A small gathering at Mom's house the next day, just a few close friends, no drama. A spa afternoon for Mom and me, something soothing, local, and within my budget. A framed photo collage Ben would make from old pictures, real memories, not resort snapshots. It wasn't flashy. It was real. And for the first time in days, Mom's shoulders loosened. She smiled small, but genuine. Then Ben's phone buzzed again. He looked down and groaned. She's live. Live. I echoed, dread spiking. He turned the screen toward us. Kara was on Facebook Live. Her face filled the screen, perfectly lit, eyes glossy, voice trembling in that practiced way that makes people believe you're brave. I didn't want to do this, Kara said into the camera, but I'm tired of being painted as a monster for trying to love my mom. My stomach dropped. Mom reached for the phone like she wanted to snatch it away from the internet. Ben pulled it back gently. Don't watch, he murmured, but it was too late. We were already watching. Kara continued, voice cracking at carefully chosen moments. I planned a milestone trip because my mom deserves the world. And my own sister decided money matters more than family. And now my mom is being influenced. Influenced. She didn't say manipulated this time. She'd learned that word was too ugly. Influenced sounded concerned, protective, like she was saving Mom from a cult. Kara wiped at a tear that didn't quite fall. I'm not asking for much, she said. Just accountability. Just basic respect. But some people think boundaries only apply when they're the ones setting them. I felt my teeth clench so hard my jaw ached. Mom's voice came out raw. Turn it off, she whispered. Ben did. The silence that followed was brutal. Mom covered her face. Why is she doing this? She whispered. Because it works, I thought. Because being loud has always been rewarded in our family. Because guilt has always been the currency. But I didn't say that. I just wrapped my arm around her shoulders. I don't know, I said softly. But you don't have to participate. Mom's breathing was shaky. I don't want her at dinner, she whispered. Ben went still. Mom. I know, Mom said, voice trembling but firm. I know how that sounds. But I can't. I can't have her perform her pain at my table while she hurts you. My throat tightened. Mom. Mom looked at me, tears streaking her cheeks. Charlene, I love her, she said. But I don't like who she is being. That sentence felt like the final puzzle piece clicking into place. Ben swallowed hard. What do you want to do? He asked her. Mom wiped her face. I want to send her one message, she said. One. And then I want to stop. Ben nodded slowly. Okay. Mom took her phone. Her hand shook, but she typed. Mom, to Kara, I love you. I did not ask for a destination trip. I asked for a family dinner. I am asking you to stop posting about this online and stop attacking your sister. If you continue, you will not be included in my milestone celebration. I want peace. She stared at the message for a long time, like she was grieving something even before she sent it. Then she hit send. We waited 10 seconds, 30, a full minute. Then Kara replied. Kara, so you're choosing her. Kara, after everything I've done. Kara, fine. Kara, don't expect me to show up and play happy family when you've clearly decided who matters. Mom stared at the words, her face going blank in that way people do when something breaks cleanly. Ben whispered, Mom. Mom set the phone down slowly. I'm done, she said, and her voice was almost calm. I'm done being held hostage by guilt. I felt tears rise, sudden and hot. Not because I was sad Kara wasn't coming. Because my mother, soft, careful, peacekeeping mom, had just drawn a boundary line so bright it could be seen from space. The milestone dinner happened the next Saturday. Kara didn't come. Aunt Diane didn't come either, making it clear where her loyalties lay. But the room was warm anyway, Mom's closest friends, a few relatives who didn't want drama, Ben, me. Mom wore a simple dress she loved and had been saving for something special. Ben gave a toast that made Mom laugh and cry at the same time. The photo collage made everyone smile, real photos, imperfect lighting, genuine joy. And when Mom blew out her candles, she looked at me and said quietly, this is what I wanted. Not a resort. Not a brag. Not a story. This. After dinner, we sat on the porch with blankets and tea. The air was cold, but Mom looked lighter than she had in weeks. Ben nudged me gently. So, he said, hesitant. Are we the bad guys? I let out a soft laugh, tired, real. No, I said. We're just the people who stopped paying the emotional ransom. A week later, the dust settled, sort of. Kara stopped posting, probably because the comments were shifting. People were asking, why would you book without asking, and why are you airing this publicly? And even a few blunt, this seems manipulative. But Kara did one final thing. She sent me a message from a new number. Kara, you'll miss me when Mom is gone. Kara, you'll regret how you treated me. Kara, enjoy being the favorite while it lasts. I stared at it, my hands steady. And I did not respond. I screenshotted it, saved it, and deleted the thread. Because I finally understood, Kara's greatest power over me was my belief that I had to fix her feelings. I don't. I can love my sister and still refuse to be her financial hostage. I can love my mother and still refuse to be her sacrifice. So, AITA? For refusing to pay for a surprise destination trip I didn't agree to, couldn't afford, and didn't want to go into debt for, especially when I offered a local milestone celebration instead, and my sister responded by shaming me, spreading lies, and taking it public? Edit/update, because the comments blew up and I didn't expect this. Okay, wow. I posted this thinking maybe I was missing something obvious and I'd get a few NTA, but call your sister replies. Instead, I woke up to my phone buzzing like it was trying to crawl off the nightstand. My inbox was chaos. My notifications were chaos. My mother's phone was chaos. And because life has a sick sense of comedic timing, Kara decided to go on yet another, clarifying, posting spree the same morning I posted here. So here's the update. With receipts. First, no, I did not ever agree to the destination trip. A lot of you asked, did you say yes at any point? Did you commit in writing? Did you accept any flight details? No, I never said yes. I asked for dates and totals, said I needed to check my finances and work schedule, and Kara responded with LOL it's right and non-refundable, so no backing out. That's not consent. That's a hostage note. Second, Kara literally said, in writing, that she booked it before collecting money. She posted this whole dramatic thing on Facebook about how she fronted everything out of love. In her mind, that makes her a martyr. In reality, it proves what I've been saying. She made a unilateral decision and tried to invoice everyone after the fact. I'm not going to post screenshots publicly because I'm not doing the same trashy online war she is, but I did take your advice. I pulled up the group chat and saved everything. Here are the key moments, paraphrased, not verbatim. Surprise! We booked Mom's milestone trip. Everything is locked in and non-refundable, so no backing out LOL. Everyone just Venmo me or share by Friday so I can finish paying it off. I'm paying the deposit today, so I need everyone's money by Friday. Later. I already put it on my card, so we're good. Just pay me back. That is not a contract. That is not an agreement. That is a person making a choice and demanding everyone else fund it. Third, the deposit she's demanding is not what she claims. This is the part that made my blood run cold and then weirdly calm. Because once Kara started threatening small claims court, I did the thing I hate doing. I got extremely practical. I asked Ben privately if he could forward me the itinerary email Kara sent him because he had paid, and she'd emailed him details. He did. And guess what? The confirmation email showed the deposit was split across multiple components, some of which were actually optional upgrades Kara selected. Ocean view, premium, airport transfer, excursion bundle hold, VIP dinner reservation package. So when Kara says $600 deposit, what she means is $600 of decisions I personally made because I wanted the nicest version. It wasn't Mom's trip deposit. It was Kara's deluxe upgrade deposit. Fourth, Mom didn't just not ask for this trip. She actively told Kara she didn't want it. This is where I have to be careful because I will not drag my mother online. But I'll say this. After Kara tagged Mom in the Facebook post and went live, yes, she did that, Mom finally told Kara directly that she did not request the trip and wanted a local dinner. Kara posted vague, "I'm being punished for loving my mom" nonsense anyway. Mom removed herself from the tag and Ben helped her hide the post. Mom then sent Kara one message, "Stop posting, stop attacking Charlene, you can come to the milestone dinner if you stop." Kara responded with, "So you're choosing her." And then she didn't show up. Fifth, Kara tried to contact my landlord. Many of you said this crosses a line into harassment. You're right. It made me feel physically sick. My property manager confirmed they ignored her email, and my account is in good standing. They also noted she's not authorized to contact them. Kara's defense? I was just asking a question. No. She implied I was financially unstable and might abandon my lease. That is not a question. That is trying to mess with my housing. Sixth, the family dynamic is changing in real time, and it's uncomfortable but also clarifying. A lot of people asked, "Where is Ben in this?" Ben paid because he was pressured the same way I was. He hates conflict and he usually tries to compromise his way out of it. But after Kara went public and dragged Mom into it, Ben finally told her to stop using Mom as leverage. He also backed Mom up when she set rules. And Mom, who has always tried to keep everyone happy, finally said something that honestly made me cry. Peace bought with someone else's wallet isn't peace. It's bullying. Seventh, so what happens now? Here's what I've done, based on advice from here. Saved screenshots of the group chat. Saved Kara's invoice and her messages from alternate numbers. Documented her contact with my landlord. Sent her one calm email stating I did not consent and I will not reimburse. Blocked her after she escalated. Told Ben and Mom I will not engage in public fights. I am not suing. I am not trying to win. I am trying to protect my life and my mental health and my relationship with my mother. Also, Mom got the celebration she actually wanted. A local dinner, close friends, a quiet weekend. No resort photos. No matching shirts. No performance. Just love. And she looked so happy that I felt this weird grief for all the years we've been letting Kara turn love into a transaction. Final question, ATA? For refusing to pay the deposit for a non-refundable destination trip that I never agreed to, couldn't afford, and that my own mother didn't even want, especially after my sister escalated to public shaming and harassment? Top comments, because people asked what the Reddit vibe was like. And TA, your sister doesn't get to buy something with her own money and then send you an invoice like you're a business client. And TA, non-refundable is not a magic word that replaces consent. And TA, your sister's gift was actually a power play. And TA, contacting your landlord is unhinged. And TA, the for mom shield is emotional blackmail. Edit 2. Some of you suggested I share the receipts in the group chat. I'm not doing that right now. I'm not trying to publicly humiliate Kara. I'm trying to stop the cycle. But I did tell Ben and Mom that if Kara tries to twist it again with more lies, stole from Mom, etc., I will calmly share the screenshots that show I never agreed and she booked first. Because I'm done being painted as the villain in a story I didn't write. Final update for now. Kara has stopped posting. For the moment. She's still telling certain relatives that I'm cold and ungrateful, but the volume is down now that Mom set a boundary. I'm keeping the documentation. I'm not engaging. And I'm focusing on my mom, who is, for once, not carrying the weight of everyone else's emotions. If anything changes, I'll update. And to the people who said, your sister will try another angle, I believe you. Because she already did. She sent a message from a new number that said, you'll miss me when mom is gone. I didn't respond. I blocked the number. And I went in my mother's house the next day and helped her plant flowers. That felt like the only answer that mattered. AITA? If you made it this far, drop your verdict and tell me, would you pay the deposit to keep the peace or hold the line? And if you want the next update, upvote, subscribe, and follow because Kara went quiet, which usually means she's planning something worse. If you enjoyed this kind of calm, true-to-life story, please like, subscribe, and comment your verdict. Was I wrong for refusing to pay?